The two players with trade value that he specifically mentioned by name were Grayson Allen and Nasir Little. All right. Those are two guys that can add something to a team.
North Carolina.
Wait. So a Duke guy and a North Carolina guy, right?
Well, you didn't have to say the four-letter word, but yes.
Sorry, yes.
Nasir Little did go to North Carolina. I need those checks.
You do. Every time a North Carolina guy, you got to say North Carolina. Those are two guys who have trade value. The question is, okay, let's say theoretically the Suns could get into the trade market. Trade deadline's still a couple months away. What do they need? What would I mean, I don't even know if there's a deal to be made given how limited their options are.
Right.
So we're having a purely hypothetical conversation, and one that I don't think anybody should get their hopes up too high about what the Suns. I want to make sure we're clear about that.
Right.
What do they need? Point guard? A physical wing? Where was Scott Williams?
First of all, they need to get healthy, right? So before you can really evaluate your team, you need to have your team at full strength for a number of basketball games, and it can't just be 6 quarters, right? So they got to get healthy, see what they have on the floor. So that's first and foremost before we could even really speculate about where the need is, because point guard might be a need, but I'd like to see how it works with Beal and Booker. Obviously, Durant's not going to be your point, but I'd like to see how those two guys could handle the point guard responsibilities when they're out there on the floor. Now, what I would think that they need, say that does work out, is a small forward, a nasty, hard hat, lunch pail, sandpaper kind of dude that could go out there and play that perimeter wing defense that can cover a lot of space out there, because they get gutted inside with guys not being able to stay in front of drivers, and they give up open three-point looks. And those are the two areas on the basketball court defensively where you will get burnt, and it will cost you victories. So names, I don't know. I heard TJ Tucker wasn't happy with his situation. Jay Crowder, who had been here in years past, it kind of got sideways with either the organization or Monty or teammates. I'm not 100% sure how that dynamic may or may not work out with him bringing somebody like that
You're
back.
just using him as like a player like that.
Thank you.
Player like that.
Thank you for saving me from myself.
Yeah, no
a
problem.
player like those guys that know this is my role when I come and join this team to provide those services.
Yeah, and it's something that I'll be honest with you, I hadn't thought much about that until recently. Like if you had said to me even like 24 to 48 hours ago, I would have said point guard. A legitimate, point guard to be that guy out there so that Booker doesn't always have to be that guy, to be that guy out there with the second unit, And what I don't know is if when Bradley Beal returns, and hopefully, knock on wood, he stays back, does he fill enough of that role? Does he give you enough of a ball handler type point guard role that you don't need a point guard as much? And I don't know the answer to that.
Well, I would have thought James Jones, who trades away a Hall of Fame point guard, and Chris Paul to bring Bradley Beal here, that had to have been one of the questions that came up before he pulled the trigger on this deal is, can these two guys, Booker and Beal, work together to be my point guards that I don't need to go get another point guard? Like, that had to have come up. I have to wait for those two guys to be on the floor together for a stretch of 8 to 12 games to be able to make a decision whether or not that's going to work or not.
I can't remember who wrote it. I think it was Joel Bourget over at PHNX Sports that it feels like, at least temporarily, the point book, it's stalled a little bit. And you could – the numbers don't say that. The numbers don't necessarily paint that picture. He's still – scoring a ton. He's still assisting a ton. He's still not, most of the time, he's not turning the ball over a ton. Statistically, it looks okay. But if you're watching these games like the way, I know you are and I am, it doesn't always seem like it's working very well at times. The ball movement's not great. The offense kind of bogs down a little bit. I don't know how comfortable he is at all times, kind of riding the fence between, am I shooting, am I distributing, am I getting other guys involved? Do I trust these other guys because they're not hitting their shots, especially from deep? Like it does seem like the numbers might not say this. It does seem like it's stalled out a little bit, right?
Whereas, basketball. You really know basketball, because I kind of get that same impression. When I first started watching the Suns right after the World Series, I was just watching. I wasn't getting too critical and paying that much of attention until the team started struggling a little bit. So I've been paying a little bit more attention to how Booker's out there. It almost seems like he comes down with the attitude that this time I'm going to go for mine. This time I'm going to distribute. Whereas I think if it was more of a natural position for him, it would be just within the flow, whatever it is, just going to go with the flow. And I think he hasn't reached that level yet.
Yeah, almost as if the instincts of how to be a true point guard haven't quite kicked in yet. Still developing, because it seems, and that can really be harmful. And we talk all the time about why the Suns aren't great in the fourth quarter. And sometimes I think that's where a true point guard, and I know Gambo said this before he went on his vacation, and I don't disagree with it. That's where it feels like you miss Chris sometimes, right? Is in the fourth quarter of these games where the execution just gets wonky. I mean, really, really wonky. But I will say that not knowing how this team is going to react when they have Bradley Beal full time, and again, knock on wood, hopefully that's going to be for the rest of the season. You could say that maybe that's going to be good enough to get you through. A physical, defensive-minded, a true two-way 3-and-D wing does seem like something this team is really lacking right now. Like a guy who can be physical out there and kind of set a tone attitude-wise, I
feel that way.
I don't know if they have that guy. Yeah, I don't know how much of a player the Suns can be on this market, because they just have very limited resources they can move out, very limited in the way of what they could give up if they wanted to.
Thanks for watching Burns and Gambo. Click to see more from the guys and hit the button in the middle to subscribe so you never miss a video from Arizona sports.